Can you recall the moment that you wrote Once and For All? You said that was maybe a defining moment for you for this
Yeah,
record?
it was one of the first songs that I wrote that ended up on the album. And yeah, I think it...
How did it come to life?
it came to life, how did it come to life? I made the samples first, like I'd make all the samples first, really, that's generally what happens. And yeah, I remember at the time I was living in a bedroom which is about the size of that, and remember kind of sitting on the edge of my bed. I don't know really, I can't remember the actual day that it finished, but I remember after our first gig kind of realising that was the core of something. I think that became something which then spread out into the rest of the album really. It kind of was a discovery of the feeling and the kind of mood which goes through a lot of our gigs and goes through a lot of our songs. That kind of slightly euphoric, quite large sounding and kind of quite emotionally overt and celebratory, and also sort of melancholy at the same time. That was the first time that they'd all come together in the same place. So it's kind of quite a big marker for what the rest of the album is going to be.
Was the bar high when you finished that song for the other songs to maybe equal that level?
Yeah, I still think that's one of the best.
I didn't want to say it. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Because at what stage do you invite, because you said you start collecting the samples, how do you have certain days that you maybe just go out or stay inside and collect samples? How does it go? Where do you...
No, I make them. All the samples are homemade, so they're kind of just constructed through whatever instruments are lying around, and then kind of chopped and replayed and spliced together until there's a little something which interests me, and that kind of drives the rest of the process really. So that's always the beginning of all the things we've done, I think, isn't it?
Do you always hear his first samples that he collects or he makes on that stage already?
It depends. Sometimes it could be a formed song. Sometimes there are, collections of samples that are available for use. Perhaps we could license them to other bands to write inferior music.
It depends whether I leave my laptop lying around, really.
Yeah. Then I mostly just look at your personal photographs and things like that.
Yeah, write emails under my name.
But do you really have already a big library built up?
Yeah, there's a lot of them which haven't been used yet. But I kind of like to do things very quickly in terms of the start of something, so it goes through that process and then ends up in a song very quickly. We'll probably pursue it. If it doesn't, then we probably won't.
But is that process important, that you have that process? Is it like a ritual that you have to start a song like that?
I wouldn't go as far as saying it's a ritual, but yeah, it's something we've come to use a lot. And we're kind of starting to write our second album now, so I don't want to rely on it. I think you don't want to paint yourself into a corner. But it is a good way of getting interesting things happening very quickly. So we've done it a lot. Yeah, I don't want to always do it. So now's a good time to try not to do it.
For the next record, maybe that's.
Yeah.
How does it go from there? He presents you the samples that he made. What's your take on it then? How does it go from there?
It's because it's sort of evolved, over the time. It's quite hard to define a particular method, So when I joined, or even when Guy started, I think he'd written some of the songs in their entirety. So you could say, in one sense, he writes the songs and we play on them, but over the time, we've got to a point where we would write together, or we would create sections together and contribute the parts. And starting now on the second album, I think it's even more open to change.
Is there one song that you wrote chunks of or parts of?
No, they're his songs. I mean, we've all got our moments where we think, that's my idea. I won't be as pathetic as to quote them now. I just carry them around proudly in my ego. Yeah, well, but we're all writing now. You know, I'm trying to usurp Guy, and I'd love to write the whole album, to be honest with you. But perhaps one song is a realistic aim at this stage.